be aware that people are coming, they're presenting information and they want you to think a certain way. That's true. That's why you need to look at others. But I'm glad you said that. Any other questions about the FBI? Okay, the next one we're going to look at, I'm going to get rid of some of these tabs, is we're actually going to look at Murderpedia. Murderpedia is www.murderpedia.org. It's the third one down. It's www.murderpedia.org. Once again, yes?
It says it's restricted.
It's restricted. You know what? That's okay. I'm not surprised. If it's restricted here, it's probably because of our filter. So what I want you to do is just pay attention and I'll show you. We'll be on here just for a few minutes. Okay. So when I first started this, I asked how many people knew what they were going to be looking at. And only a few people kind of have a good idea. And I showed you some of the cases that are related to the government. The government has weighed in. The government has said, this is a big enough case, and I care about it enough that we are going to be part of this investigation. Murderpedia is where you are going to find, I would say, the Hollywood stars of murder and gore in the 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries. This is arranged by male murderers and female murderers, and it's actually indexed by country. Okay? So I went ahead and went with somebody who was pretty famous, the most famous, or one of the more famous, and I went ahead and went with Jeffrey Dahmer. I will say that when I was looking at Jeffrey Dahmer, I didn't know how to spell his name. I didn't know how to spell his name. I spelled it like 3 different ways. Make sure, sometimes your computer's going to be smart enough to fix it for you. Here, I had to search a little bit, but on this Murderpedia, what you'll find is you're going to, all the names are alphabetized after they are, after you print the letter, and then it is, if you have a camera beside it, it's going to show some pictures. Again, consider this for your multi-genre project. You need these things in order to keep the interest of your crowd, of your peers when you start to present this. Now, Jeffrey Dahmer, what they'll show is they'll show what they did, their victims, their murders, who these people were, where they were located, and their status if they are still living. Further on, what they'll do is they'll give you a timeline. This is exactly the kind of stuff that you need for this project. It will show you when certain things happened, beginning with their birth, all the way to the time that they were either executed or caught. It will also show you some information about the victims. So in this case, because it happened mainly in the 80s and 90s, they have, or actually in this case in the 70s, you'll get a little summary of who these people are. And in this, I mean, it's, like I said, once again, I'm not going to glorify this. It's simply amazing that evil is in the hearts of so many people. But with Jeffrey Dahmer's case, because it happened in the late 20th century, that's why we have the type of media that we have in order to look at it again. We have photo galleries here. These photo galleries, in this case with Jeffrey Dahmer, this starts all the way back when he was a kid. Now, this is one of the things to think about. I mean, some of you with your project, you're going to maybe go back to a more innocent time with your criminal. You might be talking about maybe some exchanges they had with their mother or father or a former boyfriend, girlfriend, or, you know, when they were just in a better place. These would be excellent resources to use for your project. Further on, as you go through, by photo gallery 8, this is where we see, as long as it pops up. See if this is being blocked as we speak. As we go down, then you'll get more modern pictures of Jeffrey Dahmer. That's the whole point of saying that. So if you are going to go with somebody who is a little more well-known, and when I talk about someone who's more well-known, meaning movies have been made about them, documentaries, you might be going on Netflix and seeing a whole flood of information, of stories about them, I would suggest that you go to. I guess my greatest hesitation about murderpedia.com is it's just such a, it does definitely focus you on murder itself, but I hope that you people don't only go for the murderers. I mean, consider the damage that I mentioned with the white-collar crime. I mean, all of your parents have been saving their money for many years, or they have hopes and goals for their lives. Imagine if somebody took it all away. Imagine if you had a brother or sister who was kidnapped. I mean, that is just as devastating. Somebody losing their money, kidnapping, acting as a spy. I mean, all of these things, these are still criminal acts. So do consider that as you're looking at it. This does focus on murder, but there are others who are actually, just as damaging in their own way. The next one we're going to go to is not going to be blocked. And this is inspire.in.gov. I'm not going to be able to do this again. So everybody should be on inspire.in.gov. If you just put inspire, you're just going to get a bunch of sites about inspiration, which I'm trying to do for you. Inspiration. Okay, so inspire.in.gov. Once again, bookmark this. Go to the top right, click on this star. You're going to see Inspire. And this is going to be my pitch because I'm your librarian and everyone needs to hear this. Inspire is your state's database, and from birth to death, as long as you live in the state, you have access to this database, and it is absolutely amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Now, up to this point, what I've shown you are databases that have different resources. I've shown you just how you can click around, but right now I'm going to show you how filters and different wording does make a big difference. Now, earlier we were talking about Jim Jones. So I want everybody, just because, go ahead and type in Jim Jones. There probably, I think we could all think, and I apologize if you know a Jim Jones, but there probably could not be just such a straightforward name that is shared by all in terms of Jim Jones. Now, Jim Jones, as I mentioned, he is part of, he was a cult leader in the 1970s based in Indiana. But don't say that, but Inspire doesn't just show you information about Indiana. It shows about information for everybody from all states, from all countries. Now, if you first go to Inspire and you type in Jim Jones, you're going to get nearly 700,000 hits. Now, this first one's going to give you information about Jim Jones, but we also have things about other people named Jim Jones, and anything containing anything about Jim or Jones, including a book by Joseph Conrad, including a book called Finding Jim, including a video from a rapper, Jim Jones. Okay, so you're going to find so much information that it's a little bit, not all of it's going to be helpful. Now that is why you need to use the advanced search. So if you go up to the top underneath where you type Jim Jones, click on advanced national government.